When a 6'4", 280-pound biker covered in tattoos walks into a social services office and says he wants to become a foster parent, people laugh. When he shows up 3 months later with all the paperwork completed, they stop laughing and start asking questions. When he takes his first placement, a violent, traumatized 12-year-old boy that 6 families have already rejected, they think he's insane. 20 years later, at his retirement party, they finally understand. His name is Raymond "Tank" Miller, and over 2 decades, he became the father that 47 broken children never had. This is not a story about perfect parenting or miraculous transformations. This is a story about a man who decided that the kids everyone gave up on deserved someone who wouldn't, and what happened when he refused to quit on them no matter how hard they pushed him away. Before we dive deeper, drop a comment telling us where you're watching from, and if you believe everyone deserves a second chance, especially the ones who think they don't, hit that subscribe button, because this story will change the way you see family, redemption, and what it really means to save a life. Raymond Miller got his road name the way most bikers do, through a story that became legend. It was 1997. Tank was 28 years old, working as a bouncer at a dive bar in Tucson, Arizona. 6'4", 280 pounds of solid muscle, with a shaved head, a thick beard, and arms covered in ink from shoulder to wrist. He looked like the kind of man parents warn their kids about. One night, 3 guys tried to rob the bar after closing. Tank was locking up when they rushed him. The fight lasted 90 seconds. Tank put all 3 men on the ground without breaking a sweat, then calmly called the cops and waited. When his buddy Diesel showed up to check on him, Tank was sitting on the curb drinking a beer, the 3 would-be robbers zip-tied and groaning on the pavement. Diesel looked at the scene and said, "Jesus, man, you're built like a tank." The name stuck. Tank joined the Steel Guardians Motorcycle Club a year later. He was a good brother, reliable, loyal, the kind of guy who showed up when you needed help moving or your car broke down at 2 a.m. But he was also quiet, private. He didn't talk much about his past, and the club respected that. In the brotherhood, you didn't push. If a man wanted to share, he would. What Tank never told them was where he'd come from. Raymond Miller grew up in the foster care system. His mother, a heroin addict, abandoned him at a grocery store when he was 4 years old, just left him standing in the cereal aisle and walked away. He was never adopted. For 14 years, Tank bounced between 17 different foster homes and 3 group facilities. Some placements were okay, most were terrible. A few were nightmares he still woke up from at 48 years old. He aged out of the system at 18 with $200, a garbage bag full of clothes, and 0 support system. No family, no guidance, no safety net. He survived by working construction, bouncing at bars, and eventually finding the Steel Guardians, the first real family he'd ever known. But the scars from those 14 years never fully healed. Tank knew what it felt like to be unwanted, to be passed around like a problem no one wanted to solve, to lie awake at night wondering if anyone in the world gave a damn whether you lived or died. That knowledge lived in his bones, and in 2003, at 34 years old, it pulled him into a decision that would define the rest of his life. It started with a news story. Tank was watching the local evening news when a segment came on about the foster care crisis in Arizona. Thousands of kids in the system, not enough families willing to take them. Emergency placement sleeping in social services offices because there was literally nowhere else to put them. The reporter interviewed a social worker named Patricia Gonzalez, who looked exhausted and defeated. "We're desperate," she said into the camera. "We need people who are willing to take the hard cases, kids with behavioral issues, kids with trauma, kids that other families have already rejected." That phrase hit Tank like a fist. Sent back, like defective merchandise. He thought about being 12 years old, being told by my fourth foster family that I was too much to handle, being driven back to the group home with my garbage bag of clothes, feeling like human trash. Tank turned off the TV, stared at the blank screen for a long time, then made a decision. He called the number from the news segment. When Tank walked into the Pima County Department of Child Safety 3 days later, the receptionist's eyes went wide. He was wearing his usual jeans, boots, a black t-shirt stretched tight across his massive frame. His arms were a canvas of tattoos. His beard was thick and unkempt.
He looked exactly like what he was, a biker. "Can I help you?" The receptionist's hand drifted toward the phone, ready to call security. "I'm here to inquire about becoming a foster parent." Silence. "I'm sorry, what?" "Foster parent. I saw the news story. You need families. I want to help." The receptionist blinked. Okay. Let me get someone." 10 minutes later, Patricia Gonzalez emerged from a back office, clipboard in hand, skepticism written across her face. She was in her late 40s, Latina, with tired eyes that had seen too many broken promises. "Mr. Miller? Call me Tank." Patricia's eyebrow raised. "Tank. It's what people call me." She gestured toward her office. "Let's talk." They sat across from each other, Patricia's desk covered in case files and empty coffee cups. "So," Patricia said carefully, "you want to become a foster parent?" "Yes, ma'am." "Can I ask why?" "I grew up in the system, 17 different homes. I know what these kids are going through. I want to help." Patricia studied him. That's admirable. But you should know the process is extensive. Background checks, home studies, training. It takes months. I've got time." "And you're single?" "Yes, ma'am." "That makes it harder. The state prefers two-parent households." "I understand, but I'm still interested." Patricia tapped her pen against the desk. "Tank, can I be honest with you? Please. You're going to face resistance. You're a single man. You're part of a motorcycle club. You have an intimidating appearance. People are going to question your motives." Tank's jaw tightened. "My motives are to give a kid a safe place to live. That's it." "I believe you, but others won't. You need to be prepared for that." "I am." Patricia looked at him for a long moment, then opened her desk drawer and pulled out a stack of forms. "These are the application materials. Complete them. Get fingerprinted. Provide references. We'll schedule a home study. If you make it through all that, we'll talk about placement." Tank took the forms. "Thank you." As he stood to leave, Patricia called after him. "Tank?" He turned. "For what it's worth, I hope you make it. We need people like you. People who actually understand what these kids have been through." Tank nodded and walked out. The process took 6 months. Background checks came back clean. Tank had a record from his early 20s, bar fights mostly, but nothing disqualifying. The home study was more invasive than he had expected. A social worker named Karen showed up at his house, a small, tidy 3-bedroom rental on the outskirts of Tucson, and inspected everything. Room sizes, fire extinguishers, smoke detectors, cabinet locks. She asked 1,000 questions. Why do you want to foster? What's your parenting philosophy? How will you handle behavioral issues? What does your support system look like? Tank answered honestly. He talked about his childhood, his understanding of trauma, his patience, his consistency, his refusal to give up on people. Karen wrote everything down, expression neutral. When the Steel Guardians found out what Tank was doing, reactions were mixed. Diesel, the club president, was supportive. That's good, brother. Kids need stable homes. Others were skeptical. You sure about this, Tank? Winch asked during a club meeting. Kids are a lot of work. I know. And you're going to be doing it alone. I know. Bear, the club's sergeant-at-arms, spoke up. What if you get some nightmare kid who tears your house apart? Tank looked at him. Then I'll help him put it back together. What if he doesn't want help? Then I'll be patient until he does. The room went quiet. Tank continued. I'm doing this, with or without your support, but I'd appreciate having my brothers behind me. Diesel stood up and said, Then you've got it. Anyone who helps Tank with these kids is doing good work. Club supports this. That settled it. But Tank knew his brother still thought he was crazy. In March 2004, Tank got the call. Patricia's voice was tight with urgency. Tank, I've got an emergency placement. 12-year-old boy. Name's Marcus. He's been in 6 homes in the past year. All of them sent him back. We've got nowhere else to put him. What's his story? Severe trauma. Mother was murdered in front of him when he was 8. Father's in prison. Marcus has rage issues, trust issues, gets violent when he's triggered. He's kicked out of 2 schools, set a fire at his last placement. I took a breath. When can I pick him up? Silence on the other end. Tank, did you hear what I said? This kid he's difficult. We can keep looking for another placement if you... When can I pick him up? Tank repeated. Tonight, if you're serious. I'm serious. Okay, I'll text you the address. Tank picked up Marcus at a group home across town at 7 p.m. The boy sat on the front steps, a black backpack at his feet, arms crossed, glaring at nothing.
He was small for 12, skinny, with dark eyes that looked decades older than they should. His hair was buzzed short. He wore a hoodie despite the desert heat. Tank approached slowly, knelt down to get on Marcus's level. Hey, Marcus, I'm Tank. Marcus didn't look at him. Stupid name. Yeah, probably. I don't want to go with you. Okay? That got Marcus's attention. He finally looked up. What? I said, okay, you don't want to go with me. I get it. But you've got to go somewhere, and I've got a room ready if you want it. What if I burn your house down? Tank didn't flinch. Then we'll talk about why you felt like you needed to do that. Marcus's eyes narrowed. You think you're some kind of hero, gonna save me? Nope. I think I'm a guy with an extra bedroom and some experience with being angry at the world. I'm not angry. Okay. Marcus stood up abruptly, grabbed his backpack. Let's go, but I'm not staying long. Fair enough. They walked to Tank's truck in silence. The first week was hell. Marcus refused to unpack, slept in his clothes, barely ate, didn't speak unless Tank asked him a direct question, and even then his answers were one word at most. On the 3rd night, Marcus smashed a plate against the kitchen wall. Tank cleaned it up without comment. On the 5th night, Marcus tried to run away. Tank found him 2 blocks away, sitting on a curb, crying. Tank sat down beside him. Didn't say anything, just sat there. After 10 minutes, Marcus spoke. Why aren't you yelling at me? What would that accomplish? Everyone else does. I'm not everyone else. Marcus wiped his face. You're gonna send me back. They all do. Tank looked at him. Marcus, I'm gonna tell you something, and I need you to hear me. I'm not sending you back. You can break every plate in my house. You can yell, scream, run away. And I'll still be here when you come home. Why? Because that's what families do. They don't quit on each other. Marcus's face crumpled. I'm not your family. Not yet, but you could be, if you want. The boy didn't respond, but he didn't run again that night. It took 6 months for Marcus to start trusting Tank. 6 months of patience, consistency, and refusing to react to the tests Marcus threw at him. Tank set clear boundaries, no violence toward others, no destroying property. But within those boundaries, Marcus had freedom to feel what he felt. Angry? Okay, let's talk about it. Scared? That's normal. I'm here. Want to be alone? I'll be in the garage if you need me. Slowly, Marcus began to soften. He started eating dinner with Tank,
started asking questions, started talking about his mother, about the night she died, about the nightmares that still woke him up screaming. Tank listened, never judged, never told Marcus to get over it or be strong. He just listened. And one night, almost a year after Marcus arrived, Tank was working on his motorcycle in the garage when Marcus appeared in the doorway. "Can you teach me?" Tank looked up. "Teach you what?" "How to fix bikes." Tank smiled. "Yeah, kid, I can teach you." They worked side by side that night. Grease on their hands, classic rock playing on the radio. And for the first time in 4 years, Marcus laughed. Marcus stayed with Tank for 3 years. He graduated from 8th grade, started high school, joined the auto shop program, stopped getting into fights. When he was 16, Marcus was placed with a distant aunt in California who wanted to try being family. The day Marcus left, Tank helped him pack. Marcus stood in the driveway, duffel bag over his shoulder, tears streaming down his face. "I don't want to go." "I know, but family's good, Marcus. You should try." "You're my family." Tank's throat tightened. "Yeah, I am. And I always will be, no matter where you go." Marcus hugged him, hard. "Thank you for not giving up on me." Tank held him. "Never." After Marcus left, Patricia called. "Tank, I've got another placement. 13-year-old girl she's been through. I'll take her." And so it went. Over the next 20 years, Tank became the foster father to 47 kids. Some stayed for months, others for years. A few came back multiple times when other placements failed. He took the ones no one else would. The violent ones, the ones with PTSD, the ones who'd been sexually abused and couldn't trust men, the ones who'd been in 20 homes before they turned 15. He took them all. The Steel Guardians thought he was insane, but they showed up. When Tank needed help building bunk beds, Bear and Wrench appeared with tools. When a kid needed a ride to therapy, Doc volunteered. When Tank ran out of money feeding 5 teenagers, the club took up a collection. Slowly, without meaning to, the entire club became part of Tank's mission. 20 years later, Tank was 54 years old, grayer, slower. His back ached from 2 decades of sleeping on couches so kids could have beds. He'd officially retired from fostering 6 months ago. The Steel Guardians threw him a retirement party at the clubhouse. They expected maybe 30 people. 147 showed up. Tank walked into the clubhouse and froze. The room was packed. Adults he didn't recognize at first, then slowly, faces resolved into memory. Marcus, now 32, wearing a police uniform. He'd become a cop in Phoenix. Sarah, 28, a 3rd grade teacher in Tucson, holding hands with her wife. Carlos, 25, a Marine home on leave. Jessica, 30, a social worker standing beside Patricia Gonzalez, who was crying. Damon, 26, wearing a Steel Guardians prospect patch. And 39 others, engineers, nurses, mechanics, parents, people who'd been broken kids in Tank's home and were now whole adults in the world. Tank couldn't speak. Marcus stepped forward. "Tank, we wanted to do something for you, to thank you. You don't need to—" "Yeah, we do." Marcus pulled out a piece of paper. "We all wrote letters about what you did for us. I'll read mine." He cleared his throat. "When I came to you, I was 12 years old and full of rage. I'd been in 6 homes. I thought I was unlovable, broken beyond repair. You never tried to fix me. You just loved me anyway. You taught me that family isn't about blood. It's about showing up. You showed up for me every single day. And because of that, I'm standing here as a police officer, a husband, and a father. I'm here because you didn't give up on me. Thank you, Tank, for everything." Sarah went next, then Carlos, then Jessica. 47 letters
47 stories of kids who'd been saved by a biker who looked scary but had the biggest heart anyone had ever known. By the end, Tank was sobbing. So was everyone else. Diesel stepped forward, holding a leather vest. Tank, the club voted. Unanimous. You're not just a steel guardian, you're our hero. And we wanted you to have this. He handed Tank the vest. On the back, beneath the club patch, was a new rocker. Father to 47. Tank held the vest, hands shaking, and looked at the faces around him. His kids, his brothers, his family. I don't know what to say. Marcus smiled. You never did. That's why we loved you. Tank wore that vest every day until he died at 68. At his funeral, 200 people showed up, including all 47 kids, now adults, who'd called him Dad. They buried him with full Steel Guardian's honors, and on his headstone they inscribed the words Marcus had written. He didn't save us. He just loved us until we learned to save ourselves. If this story moved you, hit that subscribe button. Share it with someone who needs to know that family isn't about biology. It's about showing up. Drop a comment saying, "Be the Tank," if you believe love is stronger than trauma and that everyone deserves someone who won't quit on them. Because Raymond Tank Miller proved that one person can change 47 lives. And those 47 lives went on to change thousands more. That's the real power of love. It multiplies.